Henry is a soldier in the war. The war is not going well. So this is my favorite Amnesia game, full stop. I recently replayed it and I was reminded that, man, it kicks ass. It's intimate and small in scope, drawn in on its spectacle, forgoing the giant castles of the past or any other exotic locales for just the literal pitch black collapsing tunnels of World War I. Like, you see the sky maybe twice in this entire game, and it's either under a hail of gunfire or a hail of mortar fire. You might as well be a rat darting out from beneath rubble and spending most of your time just dodging the dog that's trying to bite you. Yeah, there are rats in the game, and by the end you'll feel like one. You get so used to crawling around on all fours. I could have seen our boy Henri here transform to a mole man in the final stretches. There is some weird ancient magic stuff going on, but I guess not that kind. Amnesia has always felt really hands-off to me. You have a physics engine that encourages you to manipulate your environment, but it's only relegated to a few puzzles. You have vicious, stalking enemies, but no real way to answer them or evade them beyond slamming doors or hiding in a closet. You have these beautiful and haunting locales, but they always felt like set dressing as opposed to living environments that you could sink your teeth into. Look, and I mean no shade on The Dark Descent. God knows that thing stands shoulder to shoulder with the other horror titans. But in the course of my Amnesia journey, which at the time of writing does not include Rebirth, I haven't played that one yet, the bunker got its claws into me like no other entry has. None of my gripes with the other games can be found in the bunker. Here, they wanted to rein in the scope of the game, but also expand all the systems within it. This is not a vast sandbox, it's a few toys thrown into a backyard. Yeah, and you could argue that maybe it feels a little too light, that the world isn't reactive enough and there aren't enough tools to problem solve with, and I'd say that's fair. The game is small, and the answers to most of the questions you face are rather straightforward, but it does allow you to answer them in multiple ways. You play as Henry, a soldier in the French army stuck alone in the inky blackness of a bombed-out bunker along the lines of the hellscape that was the Western Front. Outside, you hear the erratic thunder of mortar fire and dying soldiers, and inside you hear the flicker of wavering electricity and gnashing teeth of some mutated monster and the scramble of rats over corpses. You're alone. At first, you might think that you have a companion, but, you know. If you were able to get out, you would face German gunfire on one side and the unforgiving line of your own French army, surely to see leaving as desertion on the other. It's a bad day to be Henry. It's a simple premise that's battened down tight. You immediately know the stakes and the hopelessness of the situation. Like, you need to get out necessitated by pure survival, but at best you might walk into a stray bullet from either side or get turned into paste by mortar fire, or perhaps worse, captured. By the time Henry comes to at the beginning of the game, time has passed. Does he even know how bad the situation is out there? It's blurry. It's what we in the biz call very bad. But somehow, you've got bigger problems inside. All your fellow soldiers are dead, and there's something darting around the shadows. You do not want to encounter that thing. You'll need to use every resource available to survive down here, and the game expects you to kind of inherently understand this. You're given a few disparate items and tasks to figure out what to do and how to manage your supplies. You won't encounter a tutorial that tells you that you can explode rats, but that's a thing that you can do. It won't explain that you can block tunnels to deter the monster that's stalking you, but you can. Another game would show you that this place is rigged with traps, but the bunker just lets you trip on one and blow yourself up. What follows is like a 5-ish hour experience of pretty intense stealth, resource management, and constant decision making. The game is less kill God and more the front door is locked and you need to take out the trash, but your shoes are missing, so you gotta find them, and you're also late on the power bill, so the lights are about to shut off. You have to think about every little thing that you do here, how you plot your way through the bunker, which tasks you go after first, how quickly you scurry around on your little rat feet because your roommate is drawn to noise. Okay, no problem. Well, then just go slow, right? If you can't make noise. Well, kinda, because you also want to keep this place lit, which keeps the monster away, but that costs fuel. And this ancient ass generator that runs this place churns through fuel like I drink coffee. Otherwise, you're pawing around in pitch black darkness and the monster feels much more comfortable to roam around. You'll be constantly fighting this generator like the dad from A Christmas Story, and I'm like a month too late on that reference, but it's a losing battle. Okay, well, surely they won't send you down to the bunker without at least a flashlight to use. There has to be something better than running the generator and cobbling together a torch. Surely this flashlight is better than nothing, right? Actually, no, because this thing might really be a chainsaw that you have to rev up every 10 seconds of use that's loud enough to drown out the sound of the relentless shelling by the Germans next door. Are you seeing a pattern here? Okay, sure, fine. Then just make a torch to light the way. Well, that's going to take up at least a couple of your precious inventory slots, and it's going to consume oil and cloth, which are valuable in other ways. It's got a short lifespan, and it's a spotlight on you for the monster to see. The bunker feels a little mean sometimes. So on the surface, it will feel like the other Amnesia games, though that will quickly change as you're grounded with Henry in a way that you aren't with the other protagonists. You get a sense of his person, the weight of him, and the trench foot that's surely setting in. Running from a crouch will have him lumber up to his feet. His aim is shaky and unreliable, and his ability to reload is cumbersome and dependent on using both his hands. So get prepared to sluggishly stow away your flashlight anytime you need to slot a shell into your revolver. If you get hurt, prepare to watch the whole animation of opening the bandage and wrapping it around your arm. While this heaviness can feel demanding sometimes, it pins you down in these tunnels, makes you feel that much more immersed when you have to go through every grueling moment with this guy. I wouldn't call any of this clumsy. It's all here to make you feel vulnerable, like you can feel the labor of reloading this revolver. You're not popping off perfect reloads while the bunker beast is barreling towards you. You need time and space to get this thing ready. If you don't take that time to make sure you're loaded, you're dead. And when I say loaded, I mean loaded with like a single bullet that you found wedged in the bottom of a locker. You'll be regularly searching through your pockets and coming up with lint and paper clips. Darkness is everywhere, and the good news is that you have that flashlight I mentioned. The bad news is that this is the worst flashlight in any video game. This thing is evil. I can't help but feel a kind of radiating malice from this item. This flashlight hates me, and it wants me to die. I think this might be the actual antagonist of the game. You have to crank it 3 or 4 times to full life, and at full charge, if it's in a good mood, it might offer you like 10 seconds of light. And when I say light, I really mean like the dim glow of a flickering candle behind a pane of cracked glass covered in mud. You can hear the inefficiency of dragging this flashlight to life, and you'll come to dread the slow whirling wind down of it as darkness floods your vision again. It's a devious thing because it keeps you in this constant place of discomfort. Yeah, you might have some light, but it's never enough. And it's fickle and fading quickly, forcing you to crank it up again, which jerks your screen around and kind of stops you from doing anything else while you're reviving it. Not only that, but it makes so much noise that it puts a target on your back for the beast to find you. I love this thing. Yeah, I know managing visibility is horror game like 101, but never has it felt so hostile. You'll find a lighter locked away and think, oh my god, finally something better than this accursed thing, but no, just no. It's hard down here in the tunnels, man. Every movement and sound is so intimate and informed. You're constantly aware of the space that you take up. You'd think with the only inhabitants being Henry, a couple of rats, and a bunker beast, you might feel like you're afforded some space. That is not the case. It's a humbling and disempowering thing. Yes, Henry is a soldier and he has the tools and temperament for survival, but all that is stripped away when literally everyone else is dead and you're buried under 10 feet of debris and mud. The devs really wanted to make this game feel close, and they nailed that. The beast that stalks you is hypersensitive to noise. It'll hear every step you take, every door you slam closed, every pull on that string of your goddamn flashlight. And God forbid you shoot your gun. That thing will set the beast on you like a homing missile. Just don't use the gun unless you have to. Here, I stood before a locked door and checked my ammo and wondered if the risk of blasting this lock away was worth whatever's inside. The beast is somewhere off in the bunker doing God knows what, and if I shoot my gun right here, it'll bring him to my area, and my chances of getting back to the safe room will decrease drastically. I could pick up a brick and throw it, which might make a little less noise, but I'd have to drag this thing over here and chuck it a couple of times, which, I don't know, feels just as compromising. Inside, I might find some fuel, which is arguably the most useful resource in the game. The generator runs on it, but it's also a crafting ingredient for Molotovs. You could pour it on the ground to light up some rats. And if all that doesn't scratch your personal masochism itch, it becomes the resource needed to save the game on shell shock mode, which is just cruel. You will find a pretty steady supply of it, but it's never enough that you want to be totally loosey-goosey with it. The bunker is actually pretty well lit when the generator is running, which makes it easier to explore and to memorize routes around. On subsequent runs, sometimes the lights need fuses in order to work, a nice additional twist of the knife. The biggest thing here is that the monster hates the light, so when the generator is on, he'll retreat to the tunnels. That's not to say he won't come out, he absolutely will. He'll complain about it the whole time. You're afforded a fair amount of grace when the lights are on, so use that time to scout out new areas or bolt towards your objective when you know what you need to do. I, being the little resource goblin I am, hoarded all the fuel and items I could find, waiting for the moment where I really needed it, and that never came. If you got some cloth, you can craft petrol bombs, which can scare the beast away or scatter some rats, but the cloth is also used for bandages. Rats act as a roadblock a lot of the time. They'll crowd a hallway, bite you as you try to run by. You can't easily jump over them, which makes sense. You could throw one of your bombs and hope that you kill all of them, or swing a torch to scare them away, though they will come back. You could smash the rats with a brick, which is fun, but again, we run into the noise problem. There are not a lot of complex problems to solve here, but that's kind of what I love about the bunker. It's all simple stuff, but just clearing some rats can feel like a boss fight. Just scavenging a room and limping back to the safe room to offload your resources feels like a journey. If a rat bites you, you'll start to bleed, which will attract more rats, and they'll eventually start biting you. And I'm not sure, but I think the trail of blood also attracts the main beast. Someone tell me. I have definitely blasted a few rats out of frustration. Oh yeah, there's grenades too. You'll find quite a lot of them, in fact, and I'd argue that this is the answer to most problems that you encounter. They're pretty overpowered. Rats? Blast them. Locked doors? Blast them. Need to get away from the beast? Blast them. More rats? Blast them again. You got gas grenades too, which I like because rather than just sending off the beast, it can kind of block a hallway to allow you some extra space to explore or scavenge. With the beast trapped on the other side, it will kill rats too. Eventually, you'll get a gas mask, which is basically the equivalent of squinting through prescription glasses that aren't yours, but allows you to pass through any gas that might be... pass gas, I really said that. Pass through any gas that might be floating around, so I like to throw it on and drag around these large gas canisters, which act as like a little bubble shield around me, even if it only kind of works. You know what else will kill rats? A fucking shotgun. On your first playthrough, you won't get this until late game, but on New Game Plus, you can get it earlier. Please enjoy the 2 shells that you find through the entire game. So these are most of the tools that make up your problem-solving abilities in the bunker. Just about everything has a use beyond its most apparent one. And hey, real quick before I talk about the bunker itself, if you're still here this late into the video, thank you. And maybe think about hitting that thumb thing and the subscribe button. It really does help me a lot. Cool, thank you. Okay, so the bunker. The bunker itself is actually really snug. It's made up of an admin block, some soldiers' quarters, an arsenal, and a prison. It won't take you too long to get the lay of the land, and you do have a map for that. But when you're crawling around in the dark, it can feel expansive and tricky your first time around. You're getting used to hallways and corners, not entire floors or distinguishable areas. You're getting a sense of how it feels to move around in the dark. You'll memorize where a turn in a hallway is or where that pile of rats congregate. It feels cramped and not at all designed like a horror game. Like, you won't find a bunch of cutbacks or conveniently placed vents or tunnels to circumvent challenging areas. You won't be unlocking shortcuts back to the safe room or anything like that. Most of the time, you're looking at like one hallway that connects each area, and almost all these areas are made up of small rooms and dead ends. You won't be looping the beast like Mr. X in Resident Evil 2. You might get annoyed with the constant running back and forth in the safe room, but I like it. You have to keep making these little forays out into the bunker before you fill up your inventory or the generator runs out and you hear the growl of the beast getting closer. You have to pack up and dart back, slamming the door closed and offloading your stuff before preparing again to head out. Yeah, on repeat playthroughs, you can optimize this into oblivion, but I'm never worried about that. I'm worried about capturing that feeling of desperation and risk How far do I push my luck before I get in over my head, winding up in a new part of the bunker without a safe way back, or with too many or too few items, or with the bunker beast echo locating my position because I blew up the fucking rats again? The exploration is pretty straightforward, but always engaging. There are only a few key items to find in the game. Most of the puzzling is how you get those items. The big ticket stuff is mostly behind a locked door or a mechanic puzzle, like working the gates in the prison to get to the cutters, or weaving around a trap-filled arsenal to get the dynamite that you need. It's all pretty stripped back. You won't find any real brain teasers here outside of how do I get that thing. Henry's biggest obstacle here is remembering locker codes, and most of the guidance you get is a big red Sharpie on the map that says go here. A locked door is a locked door. Figure out how to open it. Every zone within the bunker plays the same, but with some kind of general obstacle or environmental puzzle in the way. In the soldiers' quarters, you need to daisy chain the power to unlock a single door at the end. In the prison, you have to mess with the cell doors, which provokes the beast, and the arsenal is littered with traps. I do wish that the areas offered some kind of different obstacle, something maybe a little more dynamic than just sneaking around and essentially just trying to get to the other end. I mean, there are flashes of this, like the puzzle in the soldiers' quarters, but nothing pushes the envelope or really forces you into any other mode than just avoid the beast and get to that thing. There is something about the bunker that feels embryonic, like Frictional was testing the waters or testing their skills in a more reactive or player-driven sandbox. There's a lot here, definitely, but it could have gone further. It doesn't feel safe, not at all, but not exactly adventurous either. Part of that is just the design of the bunker itself and the puzzles that you encounter here. I would have loved maybe one more area or escalation to the story. Eventually you do break into another area, but it's pretty on rails. Maybe one bigger area that expands on the teachings from the first main bunker area would have rounded out the experience a little more, but I can't complain too much. What's here is highly tweakable. They give you so many settings that you can play with. It's like peeking behind the curtain, and you can really see how much work they put into the balance of this game, especially with the beast. And you'll become pretty familiar with this monster, or if you're really good, you'll hardly see it. Aside from the rats and one late game encounter, the beast is the only other monster that you face in the game. There's a lot going on with this creature, and I think that the game almost does itself a disservice by not really showing you a lot of it. You can go great stretches without ever encountering this thing. If you fully embrace the way of the rat and sneak around on all fours, you're pretty much safe. Bunker wants you to think that this is a deadly stalking predator, but it's about as stealthy as my dog getting into the garbage in the kitchen. You'll get a sense of where it is around you at all times, and it'll be made perfectly clear if it's slinking around somewhere nearby. It'll never really surprise you, it's more of the dread that you feel as it's closing in. Sometimes it'll camp out in its little burrows and swipe at you as you walk past, but that's about all it does in the way of ambushing you. I know constant exposure to the beast makes it less scary, but a part of me almost wanted more direct confrontation with this thing, because really combating it is all about preparation and less about thinking on your feet, and that's why I really liked fighting this thing. You can absolutely create a distraction in one zone of the bunker and then sneak away, leaving it way off track to free up space for you, which I love. Like, it's definitely tethered to you through story beats like releasing the prisoner, but from my experience, it feels like you can really shake this thing off your trail. I don't have a deep understanding of how the monster's mechanics work, so let me know if I'm wrong about that. Of course, this is another dial that you can turn in the options. You can barricade its tunnels, which I absolutely recommend doing. Make enough noise and it'll push through, but sometimes it's just kind of lazy and wants to move on. You can also manipulate it into smashing locked doors for you, which can save lots of time and ammo, but mostly you just want to try to avoid it. It has all these different methods of tracking you down and honing in on your location. Sometimes it'll really aggressively patrol, other times it just feels like it's watching me from the tunnels, and other times it feels pretty uninterested in chasing me down. There is a kind of inconsistency with the beast that I found really compelling. I could never totally figure out what it was trying to do. Is it actively hunting me? Does it know where I am? Is it chasing down noise that I made further down the hall? Or is it headed right towards me? I'm bleeding profusely from being eaten by all these fucking rats. Is it following the scent of my blood? When all of this is happening around you somewhere in the darkness, it's made a lot scarier. It really becomes a game of audio cues and trying to assign intention to them, hoping for the best but expecting the worst. If the beast actually comes after you, you're not totally dead in the water, but you don't really have the mobility to think on your feet. With how sluggishly Henry moves, you're pretty much dead if you're caught unaware. A couple shots from your revolver will claw back a moment to run and hide. A grenade will send this thing running, as will a Molotov or any other kind of trap. These are generally last resort situations, but as you go and you learn your way around, you might start setting up ambushes or traps for this thing. Like, I never felt empowered during my time with the game, but I certainly felt capable. If I messed up at any point, it's over. I never quite reached Kevin McAllister levels of trap setting, but I positioned barrels around or poured gas along the floor to create a wall of fire behind me if I got chased. This kind of led to a different feeling as the game went on. While the margins for survival are still super thin, I got in this like survivor headspace, setting traps, covering my tracks, and always having an exit strategy or card up my sleeve to be a little more proactive against the creature. It was always so satisfying when you send this thing running off to the tunnels and you can freely move around for a few minutes. And all of these instances are made up of clever use of the random items and gear that you have around the bunker. It never really felt like ammo sinks. Yeah, you're always consuming some resource to stand your ground. I just never felt like I was pumping bullets into the thing. Moments like these are gold, and one of the reasons I keep coming back to the bunker. So some spoilers for the story here, be warned, though there aren't really any big revelations like in The Dark Descent or Machine for Pigs. Keeping in line with those games, the bunker's story also deals with everything that happens before the game starts. Once you crawl out of your cot, you're just trying to get out of the bunker. Finding out what happened and what the beast is kind of a byproduct of that. There is, of course, an element of the game's namesake, as our boy can't remember anything. I just assume he doesn't remember because he gets blown up at the beginning, but his amnesia in the story doesn't really matter. I think this is the weakest aspect of the game. While by no means the story is bad or underwritten, it just lacks a certain oomph that the other entries in the series had. It's just all in the background, and unlike the other games, it doesn't really inform what you're doing or what happens as you play. You're in the bunker and you gotta get out, that's it. The story is told through journals and photographs left behind by Henry's fellow soldiers. They catalog the slow decline of the folks nestled down in the bunker and the eventual deterioration of the situation there. The war above them is more than enough to contend with, but once they accidentally dig into some ancient ruins beneath the fort, things start to get bad, though that seems to be kind of separate from whatever's going on with the beast, as I understand it. The beast is actually a transformed version of Henry's friend, Lambert, who Henry rescued from an oddly enormous crater pooling with a strange kind of water. Lambert drinks some, and this would lead to his slow progression into the beast. This stuff is separate from the ruins found under the bunker, which have their own kind of cosmic influence on the men. I'm sure this ties into the lore of the previous entries, but I've never been a lore buff, so Amnesia folks, please chime in. I'm actually much more concerned with Henry. As for a character that's so absent from the moment-to-moment game, he's pretty compelling. He's a prankish guy who cheats at a card game, trading places with Lambert and setting him out on that fateful night that would see him ending up in that crater. But once he doesn't return, Henry, filled with remorse from what at the time he thought was just a harmless prank to get out of an annoying expedition, sneaks out to rescue him, and that's where the game starts. And so it's actually Henry who caused Lambert to become this beast by sort of feeding him this water, though I'm not sure he ever puts that together in game. It's bleak, which is fitting for both the series and the setting. I love the guilt that Henry feels, which kind of mirrors Daniel's from The Dark Descent. His fate is ambiguous, as is the beast's. If you don't drop him into a black void underneath the bunker, he escapes with Henry, German soldiers and dogs nearby where you spill out. Headcanon here is that the bunker beast escapes with Henry, laying waste to the German ranks, and Henry gets to escape. Easy and clean, right? So if you like survival horror and resource management, you'll like the bunker. If you like oppressive environments that play with light and darkness, you'll like the bunker. If you like creative pest solutions, you'll like the bunker. It's small in scope, but also not deep enough to really open up for you as a complex sandbox with limitless ways to explore, but it's varied enough that you might think that there's another way to open that door. I like the direction they took here. I like having some control in my survival horror, some reactivity in planning. It draws me in, makes me really think about what I'm doing. And that's how the immersion and tension set in. Yeah, laying waste to every rat I come across will still likely end up in a game over screen, but at least I'm doing a little more in between getting caught by an unkillable enemy. It's that freedom to problem solve and interact with the bunker and the beast in a tangible way that goes so far for my enjoyment of the game. It's a little more freeform and doesn't railroad you so much. And it comes with some brutal difficulty options and ways to tweak and randomize each run so you can sink lots of hours into the game. The shell shock mode is brutal, and it's got mods too. I've been running a couple subtle ones which you probably haven't noticed, and there's some full custom stories to check out as well. The bunker is a serious game. It gives you the worst flashlight in history, pats you on the back and says, "Get out there, buddy," and I love it for that. Thanks for watching.